I'm up first in week 18, and I am going with the San Francisco 49ers plus 4.5 at BetMGM against the Los Angeles Rams. And I got my Jerry Rice gear on, my throwback, one of my favorite throwbacks. But this is Niners Rams week. It's just kind of been a staple if you're a bettor these last couple of years. When the Niners play the Rams, you got to take them. I mean, Shanahan versus McVay all time, 6-3 against the spread, covering by an average of 4.8 points per game. San Francisco has won each of the last 5 meetings straight up against the Rams. The first meeting this year, it was in San Francisco. Obviously not a big travel concern between these two interstate rivals, but San Francisco won at 31-10. They outgained LA 335 to 278, a 57-yard differential. They scored on 4 of 8 drives, excluding kneel downs, while the Rams scored on just 2 of 10 drives. And San Francisco won despite 9 penalties to the Rams 5, and despite Cooper Kupp going 11 for 122. And by the way, Cooper Kupp, you want a bonus bet? Cooper Kupp needs, I believe it's 136 yards to break the record. So yeah, Cooper Kupp over whatever his receiving yardage line is this week. But I think it's going to be key here that the Niners can kind of devise these game plans to slow down the Rams and Stafford, because we know Kupp is going to get his. I saw that Ambry Thomas and Diamador Lenore got placed on the COVID list today. So the Niners, I think you're going to get penalties out of them. But I expect it to be a well-schemed game. I expect both teams to play hard. And I expect it to be a close one. And also, I've kind of been noticing Matthew Stafford, defenses are starting to catch on to him a little bit in this Rams offense. The first 8 games, Stafford had a 69% completion rate, 9.1 yards per attempt, a passer rating of 118, a touchdown interception ratio of 22-4. And then his last 8 games, so the second half, it's can kind of divide the season into 2 here. Now we got that 17th game, so he's played 16. His last 8, completion percentage drops from 69 to 66. Yards per attempt drops from 9.1 to 7.3. The rating drops from 118 to 90, a 28-point drop. 16 touchdowns and 11 picks compared to that 22-4 ratio. And one of the things that's been happening, and I kind of wonder if it's that absence of Robert Woods a little stuck, because I know Odell Beckham, talent-wise, might be even more talented than Woods, but I've noticed that over those first 8 games, Stafford's time to throw was 2.5 seconds, just over 2.5 seconds. His last 8, it's up to nearly 2.8 seconds. That's a big difference when you're talking about, milliseconds, guys getting to the quarterback, messing up the throw, receivers, being able to get open or not getting open as fast. So I don't know if it's all on Stafford. I don't know if it's the, kind of the mind melody, how it Woods, kind of taking some pressure off Kupp or what. Beckham has been productive, but it just hasn't quite been the same offense for the Rams. I think San Francisco can hang in this game with their offense. I expect there to still be some sloppiness on defense. That's why I like this number here. I think the Rams, most likely outcome is probably still Rams winning by a field goal. I think the Niners have a good chance of winning this game outright, but love getting this at 4.5. Anything above 3, I think, is a plus EV play here. So like the 49ers plus 4.5 in LA.
Yeah, I completely agree here. I think this line is way too high. I came out at 6. I got some 6 when it opened, and I was shocked.
I was so jealous because I by the time I looked, it was already like 4 or 4.5. I think I got a 4.5, but yeah, I was jealous of that 6.
And yeah, I was just like, wait, is this really 6? Because one thing you have to keep in mind is that this game it's a road game for San Francisco. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but it's going to feel like a home game for San Fran. There's going to be more 49ers fans there. We've talked about this game before. I remember when Sal was a defensive coordinator, and I kept thinking the game was in San Francisco when they dominated the Rams. And I was like, wait, I keep forgetting because the whole crowd was red. And San Francisco needs a win to get in. There's obviously a lot more 49ers fans out there. I expect maybe 80% of this crowd to be 49ers fans. And by the way, 49ers need to win to get in, or they need the Saints to lose. Those are their 2 paths. If they lose and the Saints win, the 49ers are shockingly out of the playoffs. Jimmy G might go. Lance, I thought, looked a lot more comfortable in the second half, which I think is a good thing. leading up to this week. Like he got a full game under his belt last week. I think that'll really help. Just a good matchup for the 49ers as well. This is, this is the team that teams like the Rams and the Packers, they don't want to see. These, run first offenses, how Ramsey's importance becomes, it's just not as important when if you're facing like a Bucs team, right? So I love the matchup here. Some of the guys in the secondary and the COVID issues for San Francisco are a bit concerning, but a lot of them were Tuesday. Right. So with the new rules, you could play Sunday, and this is for the playoffs. So I would assume that a lot of them get cleared. It's at this point, if you go on Tuesday, you need your doctors cleared and then not showing symptoms. So you got to be really feeling sick, I feel like, to not play in this game. So I think that's a good thing here. Taking the dog in this division, especially over a field goal, never a bad idea. I think they're 70% against the spread this year. I make this under a field goal. So I completely agree here. I think San Francisco has a really good shot to win this game. And Stafford's just not right. I think that it might be the loss of Woods. By the way, Stafford against winning teams. It didn't happen again last week too. He just fails to cover. But since week 9, in EPA plus completion percentage over expectation composite, among 39 quarterbacks with at least 100 plays, Stafford ranks 23rd in EPA plus completion percentage over expectation composite. Ranks 24th, basically just right behind him, Jared Goff. So yeah, Stafford has not been good. He's been a turnover machine. I'm not sure what's going on, but it's not great. And I think that San Francisco coming back here, playing for their playoff lives. You have the Rams coming back across country after an East Coast game, and you have to prepare for basically 2 quarterbacks, right? Like so I think that helps the 49ers as well. Like, are they going to play both? They might, but you got to prepare. Okay, is Jimmy G, who was limited today? You got to prepare for some Lance packages, which will look a little different. So I think that works in the 49ers' favors as well. And this is just the circle of life in the NFC West. The 49ers just beat the Rams. So I completely agree here.
To your point, he is, I just looked it up in our actual abs data, 32, 52, and 2 against the spread, against teams with winning records coming into the game. That's 38%, failing to cover by nearly 4 points per contest. So you would have a 21.5% ROI if you bet against Stafford anytime he was playing a winning team, any time of the year. It could be week 2 against a 1-0 team. It could be week 17 against the winning team. It doesn't matter. It's been a struggle. So yeah, that's just a kind of bonus that you're getting here when you're taking the Niners.
Yeah. And without Woods, one of the things I look for when playing the Rams, one of the reasons I liked the Ravens last week was the Ravens' run defense has been really good. And the Rams, you think of them, it's like Stafford and these receivers, but their receiving core isn't like elite, and everything is built off of the run in McVay's offense. So if you don't have to dedicate too many resources to the run and you can stop it, then you're putting them in passing situations, and they're a lot easier to defend. And the 49ers run defense has been really strong. They might get some reinforcements on that front as well this week. So yeah, I agree here. I make this under a field goal. And I love the matchup. All right. For my first pick and the second overall of the week 18 weekend 6-pack, I am going, let's get ugly. I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars plus 15.5 at BetMGM. Now, if you know me and you've listened to this podcast in the past couple of years, in the final week of the season, I'm almost always betting a couple teams that are eliminated that are playing teams that need to win. And you have that here. And the Colts need to win to get in. Now, if they lose, they can still get in, but it gets really iffy. So this is a must-win game for them. By the way, they haven't won in Jacksonville in like 7 years, I think. Yep. And the Colts I played the Jags last year. Sunday 6-pack, plus 15 at home against the Colts, who needed a win. Mike Glennon started for the Jags, and the Jags covered. They lost by 14, but they were down 6. They were down 6 with the ball late.
I remember
4 minutes to go, and then They punted, and then the Colts broke a run in the final minutes and then went for 2 and won by 14. But if you look back, so what happens in this week 18 is it's there's an inflation and a tax on these must-win teams, and they're just inflated. Like, who wants to back the Jags here? The Colts have to win, right? And I think that the lines get super inflated sometimes, and I think that's the case here. I don't think this should be 2 touchdowns, yet alone a couple points over. And if you look back historically since 2003 per Action Labs, teams that are eliminated in the final week playing a team that must win. It's not playing for seeding. So they either must win or, if they lost, they would need help. So they're a must-win spot. Those teams that must win are 16 and 26 against the spread, 38%. And if you focus solely on favorites of more than a field goal, those have gone 10 and 22 against the spread. That's 31.2%. If you don't love that sample size, you go back to 1980. Final 2 weeks, teams in this spot must win versus teams playing for nothing, 60% against the spread, or 40% for the teams that must win, 60% for the teams that are eliminated. And this is the NFL. And like, the one thing I will mention is that there's this added complexity of like the tank now. And we'll get to that on certain teams, like the Eagles last year. I think the Browns might be tanking. We'll talk about that. I don't see it with the Jags. It's like an interim coach. You have your quarterback. You're either getting the first or second pick. You're already finishing in last place. You can ruin the Colts season. So don't think this is a tank spot. It's still the NFL. These guys are playing for contracts. The coaches are playing for positions. Like Darryl Bevell wants to be the head coach of the Jags. So these guys, everyone's still going to try. And then what happens is it's the last game. It's your Super Bowl, right? Oh, wait, now we have something to play for. And you can, you finally can be like, all right, after your disappointing season, we can ruin the Colts season and kind of make something of this. You also can come out and play a lot looser, whereas the team that needs to win is, they're a lot of times they're tight and we can't make a mistake. That works in your favor as well. So I love teams in this spot. You also have the Jaguars coming off of an absolute embarrassing loss against the Patriots. Teams in that spot when they haven't covered by, that many points or more have been phenomenal against the spread historically. And last week, the Jaguars were just completely decimated on both sides of the ball by COVID. Should have a lot of those guys back. You also have Carson Wentz, who still has some looming turnover regression. And for as bad as Lawrence has been, he's been pretty unlucky in that regard. So don't be surprised if maybe a couple deflections go the Jaguars' way. But ultimately, it's just the price. I think the line is too high. You're getting the must-win inflation. I'll take over 2 touchdowns with the home division dog here. Give me the lowly Jags.
Yeah, I'd probably join you with this. I think the line is only going to go up too. I don't know if it's even going down. So I'm holding out. But I every time the Colts play the Jags, I kind of circle it too, because it just always seems to be problematic. And just like another team we'll talk about in a second in a division matchup in the same division. But look at that last game. Like, forget all the things at stake or not at stake, and just look at the last time these two teams played. Indy was at home, won the game 23-17. So it was a struggle. You look at the underlying stats. The Jaguars outgained Indy 331-295. They just happened to turn the ball over that, once. Indy didn't turn it over. And the Jaguars actually did better on third down than the Colts. 5 of 15. The Colts were 4 of 15. So, I mean, it's not like the Colts and this is with Urban Meyer as the head coach of the Jags. So it's not exactly like the Colts have this like just great matchup here where they just are going to run away with it. I think it's a tough matchup for them either way. I think the Jags, they've shown they can hang in there against some of these tougher teams. The Patriots, Belichick, you knew that wasn't going to go well. That you could kind of, the writing was all over the wall for that. I don't think Belichick's ever lost to a rookie quarterback in Foxborough. So I'm not taking too much away from that. But yeah, there's no Urban Meyer now. Tough matchup. They played him tough the first time. So yeah, I completely agree with this one as well. Probably will be joining you. But I mean, do you think this gets to like 17 or something like that?
I could get to 16 and a half. I don't think it'll ever get to a flat 17, but it's in a dead range right now. So if you're out there, you might as well wait So yeah, but the Colts have been running really well with turnovers. They lead the league in takeaways. They lead the league in turnover margin. Wentz only has like 6 picks, and so there's been some potential regression coming in that department as well.
Yeah, and
so let's go Jags.
Look at, and the last time they played, you like to talk about special teams. Colts won by 6. What did they get in the first half and the first quarter? Their first touchdown, 12-yard block punt return from EJ Speed. Take that punt return away, and the Colts have fewer points than the Jags in that game. So yeah, I like that. For my second pick and the third overall of the Week 18 weekend 6-pack, I'm going with the Houston Texans plus 10.5 against the Tennessee Titans. This is a game I think that kind of fits into that same, motivated versus unmotivated. It's not quite, the Titans don't need to win or to be eliminated or anything like that, but clearly, obviously, have more motivation here than the Houston Texans. But I look at this game and remember last time these two teams met, the Titans, granted, they were banged up as they've been all year, but Tennessee was favored by 10 at home. They closed as 10-point favorites. They lost the game by 9. This is at home to the Texans. Now they're favored by 10 on the road. Like, I don't get how we swing that many points. I know AJ and Julio being healthy, I don't know if that changes anything because the guy, even when he's healthy, he plays like half the game. So it's, that's not a big deal. AJ Brown's going to get his, like, we're not going to sugarcoat that, but this still a Titans offense without Derrick Henry, still a Titans offense that's going to struggle to move the ball. I think they're going to struggle in the red zone against this Houston zone defense. They've been getting lucky. They have 11 wins on the year, but their point differential suggests they're more of a 9.5 win team. So they're about a 1.5 over expectation in terms of overachieving. And again, this is a tough matchup for Tennessee. I just, last game of the season, Tennessee here, you got to not play sloppy. And they did that last week. They played a sharp game against Miami, but we just saw a ton of turnovers last time these two teams played. I just think that Houston is going to it's always been a struggle when these two teams play. So you had Houston beating them 22-13 as 10-point dogs. Then last season, you had a Titans favored by 7 last game of the season against a similarly horrible Houston team.
Must win. I was on the Texans there. Must win.
Titans win.
Came back and cooked the field goal to win at the bell.
They could have lost. Titans could have easily lost the game. 41-38.
I think Sam Sloman, was the kicker that game.
Yeah. It was just a struggle. Game before that, earlier in the year, you might have also been on the Texans, but
I lost that. I had plus 4.
Plus 4 overtime.
Crazy game in overtime. They lost by 6.
Yeah, like this
has been happening for 2 years. This overtime. This is just kind of. But no, this matchup has also been happening for years, where it's just, even as bad as the Texans are, they're usually kind of one of the worst teams in the division over these last couple of matchups. Titans just struggle to put them away. So, well, that's their MO though. They just play up and down to teams. They play down to their competition. This is a team that went, to the Jets and lost. And then, you go out to the Rams. And you go look at all their results. They just kind of play close games against everybody.
Exactly. So you were on them against Miami last week. That was a great call. But that's the whole point. I think that game, now they're feeling good about themselves. It's just right for a Titans letdown, but just forget all the circumstances. I just think the number's too big either way. You don't go from a 10-point home favorite that loses by 9, which is like a 19-point swing on the spread, to then being a 10-point road favorite just because, you have to, you could get the number 1 seed here. It's not even like a true must-win game. And then for these situations late in the year, you have a Houston team that was held to only 7 last week against the Niners. So when you have an underdog that scored in the single digits in their last game facing a favorite, as long as that favorite isn't completely terrible and they have a winning percentage of 35 or better, the underdog in this spot is 219, 135, and 862%, 20% ROI. Since 2003, according to our Action Labs data. Houston fits the trend here. Too many points at home. I think it's going to be another one of these tough games for Tennessee to close out.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm on this as well, plus 10.5. Would have been one of my picks if you didn't take it. Davis Mills is playing better in the second half of the year as well. I like some of the things that I've seen with him. He also appears more comfortable at home. And this team is still playing hard. And this is now can be kind of their Super Bowl, right? And this is a team that blew out the Chargers with a COVID decimated roster at home a couple weeks ago. And Titans play up and down. Everyone go look at Vrabel's record as an underdog. He's great. He's not so great as a favorite. That speaks to what this Titans team does. So yeah, home divisional dog catching double digits here. I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans have a shot to win this game. And the AFC 1 seed is up for grabs in the fourth quarter. Should be interesting. So I completely agree there. All right, for my second pick in the fourth overall, the Week 18 Weekend 6-pack, I am going with the Atlanta Falcons plus 4.5 at BetMGM against the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans needs to win and have San Francisco lose to get in, and I'm just not buying this line. Again, this fits the mold. This is the other game. I think that the Titans are, they're not exactly in that mold. Similar to the Bills last year, by the way. The Bills could have been playing for seeding. It speaks to the wackiness of this final week. They decided to rest a bunch of starters playing the Dolphins who needed to win to get in.
I remember that.
So this doesn't even clarify my numbers because the Bills could have improved their seeding, but they just didn't care. But the Bills won 56-26 anyway. Like Isaiah McKenzie was they were throwing Isaiah McKenzie. They sat all their secondary guys and they still won 56-26. So yeah, I think this number is too high. Early in the season, the Saints were -6, -6.5 at home, and they lost outright to the Falcons. So now you're getting 4.5 in Atlanta. And by the way, after a big home week against the spread last year, running some things, and home field advantage was right around, people were like, oh, it's zero for this year. You get small sample size for one season, but it's around 1.5 points, a little higher for, a team like New Orleans, but now you're getting 4.5, and that's a big number for the Saints to cover. I make this under a field goal, by the way, which is why I played it. That's a big number to cover. And at total, it's 40 with a New Orleans offense that is just horrendous. I mean, by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, let's take a look. They're 31st in success rate on offense since week 8. Their rush offense for the year is 28th in EPA per play and success rate. You can't throw it, right? So you can just kind of load the box and you don't have to respect who they're throwing it to on the outside. I also think I like this matchup for the Falcons because now you want to keep an eye on Kyle Pitts, which would be a big loss because they're already missing Calvin Ridley. He didn't practice today with the hamstring injury.
It didn't look good, actually. I saw him pull it live. And they did. So here's something like if you just want some intel, they signed Parker Hesse, who's their force tight end, to the active roster for this week. So that's also a bad sign. I saw that on the transaction wire. So hopefully
I do think that if he has a chance to go, he will, because he needs 58 yards to break the all-time rookie. Mike Ditka holds the record for all-time receiving yards by a tight end of the rookie season. But regardless, prop alert if he plays. But regardless, this is a Saints offense that is just dreadful. And if you go by some metrics, like their point differential, they've been the luckiest team in the NFL. And the Falcons, what they've done this year is they really can beat and/or compete with teams that are, similar to them. And they just get blown out by these superior teams. That's not New Orleans right now with Taysom Hill, in my opinion. And Taysom Hill, for what it's worth, has been one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. Let's take a look. Since week 8, here's a list of quarterbacks that rank lower than Taysom Hill in EPA plus completion percentage over expectation composite. There's 36 quarterbacks with at least 150 plays since week 8. There's only 3 that have been worse than Taysom Hill: Cam Newton, Mike Glennon, and Zach Wilson. That's it.
And the Saints have beat 2 of those 3 in the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
Well, I mean, technically not Cam Newton because it was Scam Darnold, but yeah.
Yeah, and he's not much higher anyway. So I'll take both teams should get some key pieces back from, COVID and injury. And I just think that this line is too high Falcons can play the role of spoiler. All the pressure's on the Saints' dreadful offense. And Matt Ryan has actually had some success against this Saints defense, particularly since Dennis Allen has arrived. Since 2015, when Allen got there as defensive coordinator, Ryan has 26 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 3,800 passing yards in 13 games. That comes out to a per game average of 2 touchdowns, 0.8 picks, 300 yards passing. That's pretty much right around where he is on a per game basis on all other games. And the Saints defense is better than an average defense over that stretch. So, one of the things that I like about this matchup is the strongest parts of the Saints team is their run defense. It's elite. Like, you can't really run on them at all. So when they can take that away from a team that relies on that for play action or just, getting yards on the ground, that's an advantage. That doesn't matter against the Falcons. The Falcons are the worst rushing team in the NFL. They can't get anything on the ground. They take away their run game on their own. Taking away the Falcons' run game does nothing for them. So ultimately, I just think this is too many points for this Saints offense on the road. And I think that this should be under a field goal. So I will gladly take the 4.5 points at home with the Falcons in a game I think they'll have a really good shot to win straight up.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't get this line. I mean, this is one of those inflated because the Saints need to win the game. Like, that's all it can be. Because, look at this. I mean, just look at the Saints and what they've been doing over these last few weeks. They went on a 5-game losing streak, Taysom Hill missed some games and they were starting Simeon and whatnot. But then they beat the Jets 30-9. Okay, like, that's whatever. Beat the Bucks 9-0. You scored 9 points. Like, you scored 9 points in that game. The Bucks, everyone got hurt for the Bucks. So you won a game scoring 9 points. You scored 3 against the Dolphins. Then you beat the Panthers 18-10. So you won a game scoring 18 points. Like, the Falcons, and I got a bad, ended up getting a bad line on the pod with 14.5. Ended up pushing on, I got a 14. But, the Falcons, they play poorly, like you said, against these elite teams. They're not going to score. But against these, like, mediocre teams, they can get to 18, 19, 20 points. That's probably going to be enough to beat the Saints team. So, especially at home in Atlanta, they got eliminated from playoffs last week. So now this is their Super Bowl in essence.
This is their playoff game against their rival.
This is a playoff game for them. They could come out and we were both on them at +6 early in the year, and they just looked dreadful. And
they were up 21-0 in that game through 3 quarters. I had to hold on to win. But yeah, I think this line's way too high.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, for my third pick and the 5th overall of the Week 18 Weekend 6-pack, I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers +5.5 in Baltimore. We're gonna do this one more time with the Steelers. It's not. They
still have a shot of making the playoffs. You might be doing it again as a dog next week.
Yeah, that's true. Oh man, yeah. Listen, man. I'm always curious to hear your thoughts on the Ravens. This is not about Pittsburgh as much as it's about the Ravens. I just don't know where they're at now. They've lost 5 in a row, a lot of close games, but remember, these teams
they'll score those 5 by a combined 5 points.
Yeah, so it's not. I'm not saying
but they had that close game regression coming. Yeah. That's why I was fading. I mean, early in the year they were winning all these close games, and it caught up to them because they weren't as good as people thought early in the year. When I was like, dude, this team is not that good because of all their injuries. They're 8-3, yes, and now here they are at 8-8.
Right. So this is about Baltimore to me. It's can they win this game and give themselves a chance? I know that they have like a 2% chance to go to playoffs, or I guess a little higher if they win.
We need the Jags. We need the Jags to win.
Yeah.
We need the Dolphins to lose.
Yeah.
And then we need the Chargers to lose. The problem is if all of those things happen, I'm pretty sure the Raiders clinch. So they won't be playing for any, like it's bad.
Yeah. So it's, can Baltimore still win this game? Absolutely. But now you're talking about winning it by 6 or more. I don't know if this team, I think they can win close games because they're going to play in a lot of close games. Every time they play, it's a close game. They're like the Chargers from last year. Yeah, it was the Chargers, right? It's like every game's a close game these days. Are they going to win by 6? Just because they're home? I don't know. I don't know if they win a game. I don't know if they win it by 6. Last time these two teams played, granted, it wasn't Pittsburgh, but the total yardage was pretty even. Baltimore 326, Pittsburgh 321. However, Pittsburgh 5.6 yards per play, Baltimore 4.7 yards per play. And that was with Lamar Jackson. So now Lamar didn't practice Wednesday as we record this. You thought he might suit up last week. He didn't. You would think for this kind of game he would, but I don't know if that's even a positive. I mean, it's clear, Huntley had some regression coming. He wasn't going to keep putting up, like 4 total touchdowns and things like that. Lamar hadn't even done, but I just think the Ravens are in a tough spot here, regardless of who plays quarterback. I think you're still going to get a game out of the Steelers D. It's going to be ugly on offense, but it's been ugly on offense all year for the Steelers team. And they've continued to kind of exceed expectations just slightly. Pittsburgh in these spots this year, they're 6-4 as an underdog. Obviously they're not the same as they used to be. We saw that in that game against Cleveland, that was a tough watch. I think the two teams combined for like under 4 yards a pass attempt, but that speaks to what the Steelers defense can do. They can just hang in the game. They played a real strong game against the Ravens last time. Even with the Ravens getting a lead early, they just couldn't get nothing going down the stretch. Everything was just a little more difficult than it seemed like it was earlier in the year. Going down to that 2-point conversion at the end of the game. So, and then, I know a stat that you've talked about, a stat that our guy Brandon Anderson, I believe, posted in the app as well. Since 2005, when either of these teams in this rivalry is favored by more than a field goal, the underdog is 17-2 against the spread. That kind of defines this matchup. You got Mike Tomlin as a dog from week 3 on, 40-18-2, 69% against the spread. So I just think it's going to be an ugly game, hard fought game. Both of these teams have an incentive to win regardless of, whatever else is going on. They know the only thing they really have to do is win and then just pray. So I think you get the best effort from both teams. And I'm just not convinced that Baltimore is in a spot where now they're winning games by a touchdown or more again. So give me Pittsburgh plus 5.5 in Baltimore.
Yeah, I don't mind taking the points here. But since Harbaugh got there, when these two teams met since 2008, favorites of more than a field goal in this rivalry are 1-14-2 against the spread.
Nuts.
Just crazy. All these games end up coming down to a field goal, hard fought. They know each other well. Yeah, and I just double checked. That is the Ravens' path. If they get all that to happen, if they win and New England wins and Jacksonville wins, the Raiders will clinch, and then the Ravens will need the Raiders to win, but the Raiders will probably sit everybody. So it's not looking great. If the Steelers win, by the way, they also need the Jags to lose the Jags to beat the Colts. And then the only thing that they would need, the Dolphins result doesn't matter to them. The only thing they would need is the Saints or the Raiders and the Chargers to not tie.
Yeah.
That's it.
What's funny?
So, and that's the scenario where they would have, I tweeted that out on Sunday night and it got picked up everywhere. I was going through the simulations and I said, here's a collusion example. When I was going through tiebreakers, I said, if the Steelers beat the Ravens and then the Colts lose, the Raiders and the Chargers would both get in with a tie, but one of them would miss if they lose. So they would actually have an incentive, and you get to rest your starters to just kneel it out the entire game. What I found out is that you would just have it would be on prime time too, but you don't waste anyone. But it's kind of like prisoner's dilemma, whoever has the ball last. But you don't even have an incentive to knock their team out. Like, you're not even competing against the other team in the playoffs, right? Like, it's the 7 and 6 seed you would get. Like, okay, and you're all, and then you're ultimately, the team that would miss is the Steelers. So I guess if you're the Raiders at the end, maybe you say, look, we'd rather have the Steelers into the Chargers than Carr fakes a knee in overtime and then chucks it deep to your boy Tay Jones for a touchdown and they win. And then like the Chargers Raiders rivalry for years to come is like ridiculous. But how much would we bet on the Chargers the next year when they first play them? But I did find out that I'm almost positive there's a clause where the commissioner has the ability to award a double forfeit if neither team tries. So if that was the case, then the Steelers and the Colts would make it, I think. But I can't see that happening. There would probably be a call made at halftime when it was 0-0 or something. You couldn't even get all your commercials in. The game would be like 60 minutes. So, yeah, that's what you have to root for. Steelers. But I agree. This game always tend to be close. Now, the Ravens secondary looked a lot better last week. They got some guys back, and they got Tavon Young back, Jimmy Smith, Westry. Chuck Clark had a great game. He's back in the mix, and the Ravens' run D has been great. The Ravens' secondary is still their weakness, but it's not like Ben can take advantage of that. But the Steelers' defense can hang with the Ravens, and this should be a battle. I don't mind taking the points here.
I just want, like, imagine how 2022 that would be if the game they flex, because they flex that Charger game to prime time, just like kneel down for 60 minutes, and then that would knock out the Steelers. So it'd be like they probably would spend all day sucking Ben off, especially if they beat the Ravens anyway. You know, they'd be like, "Oh, Big Ben," and then it'd be, what the Steelers could have really used though, a win against the Lions.
Yeah.
It's like what a crazy year. But who are you going for your third?
Yeah, or if the Ravens got that 2-point conversion. By the way, we almost hit our money line underdog play again. The Ravens got a fourth down stop.
Jesus.
We have either hit or just been like one play away every week. So yeah, I don't disagree. The real interesting, the more realistic scenario is that if these two teams, if the Raiders and Chargers actually do get to overtime, like legitimately, and then that if you tie, you're in, right? Like, so then do you just play like, do you almost like come to an agreement without coming to an agreement? Yeah. Like everyone is being really conservative, and then you're like, and you're kind of know that like, we're not going to take a risk, and then we're both going to the playoffs. We just got to get through this 10 minutes. That would be fascinating to watch.
When you come out for the coin toss, you just kind of a little nod to the other captain. You're like, all right, let's go. Let's do this.
Yep. All right. For my third pick and the final pick of the Week 18 NFL Weekend 6-pack, I'm going with the aforementioned Los Angeles Chargers -3 at BetMGM against the Raiders in Las Vegas. I think that this isn't a number that I think has a ton of value, but it's at 3 or below. See if you can get below. I actually moneyline them with Buffalo in a parlay. I just love this matchup, and I think that the Raiders are a fraud. The Raiders are 6-2 in one possession games this year. They're 3-0 in overtime. They got the ref game in Dallas without Lamb. Other than that, since week 8, this is a team that can barely get over 17 points. And, you face that Dallas game, they didn't have CD Lamb. You face Nick Mullins and a completely decimated Browns roster. You barely beat them. You face Drew Lock and the Broncos. You barely beat them. You face Carson Wentz just coming off COVID. You face Jacoby Brissett. Three of their nine wins came against backups. 3 of their 9 wins came in overtime. It's just a team that has been getting extremely fortunate. Darren Waller should be back. We'll see how healthy he is. That should help. But this offense is still extremely limited. But I really like the matchup here for a number of reasons. So if you look at, and the Raiders defense has just been on a downward path. The run defense is actually playing well. Not as important, though, against the Chargers. Their defense 30th in EPA per dropback since week 8, 31st in success rate. The run D, like I said, better, but not as relevant against the Chargers. Also, the Chargers' primary weakness on defense is their run D. Raiders can't really run it. Their rush offense 30th in EPA. In the first meeting, they had 18 carries for 48 yards. And the Chargers won 28-14. Chargers averaged 5.1 yards per play. The Raiders averaged 3.8 yards per play. And Herbert absolutely shredded. He started that game 20 of 25 for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns. I think they went up 21-0. Why? Well, he shreds non-cover 2 zones. Shreds them. I think he's number 1 in the NFL in QBR against zone, non-cover 2 zones, top 3 overall in zones. But he struggles a little bit with cover 2. But all the Raiders do is run cover 3. And guess who's familiar with that cover 3? Justin Herbert. Gus Bradley was with the Chargers last year, and he showed that, and he just shredded cover 3 all year long. Teams that don't blitz, that are playing cover 3, Justin Herbert's just going to rip them up. So I think this is a great matchup for Herbert, and I think that this is a good matchup for the Chargers defense. And on top of that, I think this is where Staley's aggressiveness will really come into play. Love him, making the optimal call much more than I trust the Raiders to do so in this spot. And on top of all that, it's a divisional game. Home field advantage isn't as much. But on top of all that, there is a chance, like I just mentioned. Now, it's very small. It's not impacting my bet or anything. But there is a chance that the Raiders clinch before this game happens. And then this line closes at 10 because Carr sits and everyone sits. And so there is a chance that happens. But ultimately, I think that the Raiders have just been maybe the luckiest team in the NFL this year. And this is a great matchup for Herbert, and it's an ideal matchup for the Chargers defense. So I'll side with Los Angeles here at 3 or below.
You in these situations, because I get this question from time to time, we probably both do. Where would you buy up like a 2.5 to -120 or
minus? Yeah, it depends on the total. A lot of times, but yeah, I mean, the 3 is king here. So, I mean, I moneyline them. I moneyline parlayed them with the Bills, and I paid -122 moneyline and the Bills. Look, the Bills could lose. It's still the NFL, but I felt really strong doing that. But yeah, I would pay with this total. I would, and there people go for 2. The Chargers kicking situation is worse than the Raiders, so it's not as important. So I would go I would go up to -120 here. In some cases, if it's a lower total, 2 good kickers, weather, I might go up to -125, -130. But yeah, if you can get 2.5, I'd go to -120. But I think that there's actually a chance that this maybe a greater chance than normal with the way that these two teams play, that this doesn't end on a 3, right? Like the Chargers are going to go for it on a lot of 4th downs. And if the Raiders win, the Raiders have a better chance of winning by 3 than anything. The Raiders have a really good kicker, and they're more inclined to kick. So Chargers by 3 on the spectrum of outcomes is probably less likelier than a normal favorite with this total in this spot, given the profile of the Chargers. So I'll side with the -3 here. But yeah, I would buy -120 or throw them in a money line parlay as I did with the Bills.
I mean, honestly, I don't just mind them on the money line, period. It's not, you're not paying you're not paying a ton, but I agree. I actually make this line right around, 2.5, 3, but just kind of without adjusting for the matchup advantage. But I really like the Chargers in the spot. I think this is kind of a put up or shut up for Staley. We're going to be aggressive all year long, this and that, but they've lost some games that they shouldn't have lost, and it's been ugly. And they're here on this last game of the season, still needing to clinch. The Raiders, every year we see it, they tend to fall apart. Late in the year, they tend to wilt. Now, I like that winning.
Well, they were about to before they got to play. They got to play all the backups, and then an impressive effort against the Colts. Got to get
like their effort against the Colts. So not knocking them for that. I respect for doing that. But you mentioned, I think something was interesting that you mentioned was that the Raiders' run defense has been kind of going south, but you don't really worry about.
No, their pass defense. Their pass defense. Their run defense. Their run defense has been good.
Yeah, because it's interesting because the Chargers 34 for 168 in a touch. They ran really well against the Raiders in that first matchup. So, I mean, it's not a gimme that they'll be able to stop the Chargers. I mean, Austin Eckler had like a career day, had a 15 carry, 117. I distinctly remember Roundtree breaking a couple of tackles, running hard. Like it was just the Chargers out physical the Raiders in that first game, so, take that for what it is. But yeah, I think this is a good matchup.
Yeah, I'm saying even if the Raiders run defense plays well, that's not going to make or break this game. But yeah, I could see the Chargers having success on the ground for sure.
All right, that is going to wrap it for our Week 18 weekend 6-pack. To recap, Stuck is going with the Jags plus 15.5, the Falcons plus 4.5, and the Chargers -3. I'm going with the Niners plus 4.5, the Texans plus 10.5, and the Steelers plus 5.5.